This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Marianne Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 44 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, here to ask questions you may have while listening to the podcast. We are both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you will be to make difficult end-of-life decisions in advance.
So please, relax. Get yourself something to eat and drink, maybe a po' boy and a hurricane to drink.
Oh, yes.
And thank you. What?
I said, oh, yes. A shrimp po' boy, hurricane, get a little rum going. Absolutely, yes. But,
or a lot of rum
well,
going.
Okay, yeah, good point.
And thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me. In the first half, Charlie reports about using humor in the end of life and has our recipe of the week. In the second half, I'll be continuing our chat about theme funerals with a trip to the Big Easy, New Orleans, and their traditional jazz funerals. In our third half, Everyone Dies continues to wake the dead in our ongoing series of original music. We're pleased to welcome Kathy Wieland, a singer-songwriter from Ann Arbor, Michigan, who will be performing 2 original songs that could be sung at a funeral as part of our new series, Songs to Wake the Dead. Today's podcast is going to rock your world.
Rock and roll.
Except it's not, but we could pretend.
Yeah. Pretend is good too sometimes. So, David Guas and Raquel Pelzel wax poetic in their description of banana pudding served by their New Orleans family at their funeral lunches. Sometimes it was layered with vanilla wafers like a parfait. Sometimes the cookies were half sunken into the abyss. Sometimes there were bananas and sometimes there weren't. Their banana pudding recipe is flavored with banana liqueur and topped with a vanilla wafer and cinnamon tossed from topping. It's humble and homey and just perfect to take to your next funeral lunch. And speaking of lunch, did you know that laughter and humor can fulfill one of the main goals of hospice and palliative care, which is the improvement of a patient's overall quality of life? Well, you do now.
That's why I'm so good at this, Charlie.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Because I'm so
I'm
so funny.
Yeah.
I'm funny. Yes, I am.
Yes.
I got it.
Will you put that hammer down, please? Okay, I agree with you. Fine. People who are receiving hospice or palliative care, including staff members and caregivers, can use humor to alleviate difficult situations, reduce patients' embarrassment when needing help with the toilet or other personal functions, reduce tension when things don't go as planned, connect with other healthcare professionals, providing a level of mutual support, cope with difficult situations, create a bit of distance when emotions run high. Humor has also been found to help alleviate pain. According to the Journal of Aging Research, humor releases endorphins in the brain, which help to control pain. It can also reduce loneliness among older persons suffering from chronic pain. For many people who are faced with accepting end-of-life care, the process of dying comes with less stress when it can be approached as something of a laughing matter. Not necessarily funny ha-ha, but a kind of willingness to occasionally make light of the peculiarities and even absurdities that are often part and parcel of end-of-life situations. One patient quoted in the Chicago Tribune put it this way: "While death cannot be cured, your frame of mind is something that you can change." On its website, the National Cancer Institute urges patients to build humor into their day-to-day lives in ways as small as buying a funny desk calendar to watching comic films and TV shows. Humor, especially during extremely stressful moments, has the benefit of acting like a release valve, relieving tension if even momentarily, so everyone can reset and reevaluate. If you get any gruff from people that you need to take your dying seriously and not make light of it, remember, it's your party and you'll die as you want to.
Doggone it anyway.
Yep. Many hospice care providers say that when a patient can laugh about their situation, they are beginning to accept their fate and are beginning the process of coping with it. All that being said, there is a limit to when humor is acceptable. It's a balancing act, and its use and frequency depend greatly on the family and patient. But you have to remember, if someone is angry and unwilling to talk or laugh about things, as a caregiver, you must honor that. So,
do I have to?
Yes. Remember, it's it's not your party, and you're not dying as you want to. It's someone else, and they would like to die as they want to. Which
But I can go in another room and be naughty if I want.
Oh, absolutely. And I think venting is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, you go to another, and and even if someone is unconscious, close to death, and you just need to make jokes or something. What you had mentioned to me, Marianne, when my mother died, about at the end she was pretty much unconscious, dying, going through the process. But like you told me, she knows you're there. She just senses it. So it's the same thing, folks. If you want to make fun, and it's okay if you do, just to release some stress, consider not doing it right there next to the person who may be picking up some of those vibes. Go to the next room or the hallway or your local cantina.
So can you put like bunny ears on somebody who's dying?
I did that once.
I know, that's why.
Oh my God, you remember that? Holy shit, you remember that?
I remember everything, Charles.
Oh dear. Yes. Well. Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, she always liked wearing those damn bunny ears, or just in some sort of headdress like that. It was good. Yeah.
It was good.
I forgot about it.
It was enduring. See, all these years later, we still chuckle about it.
So please go to our webpage for the recipe of the banana pudding, as well as our other recipes, plus additional resources for this program. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and remember to rate and review this podcast. As a licensed nonprofit organization, we are dependent on our wonderful listeners and always appreciate your donations, which are tax deductible. Remember, many listeners find that this podcast provides quality information about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. So please go to our webpage to donate at www.everyonedies.org. That's www.dies.org. Marianne, time for a little music, New Orleans style.
So have you ever been to New Orleans,
Many
Charlie?
times. It's been a while, but many times, yes.
Great. So, then that New Orleans is a unique place with a rich culture and heritage, unlike probably any other city in the United States. Yeah. New Orleans is a city that celebrates every chance it gets. One festival rolls into the next, and whenever you decide it's time to go to bed, it always feels that the party has not even hit full swing.
Exactly.
It's the birthplace of jazz, and jazz is all of its parts of its culture in New Orleans, including how locals honor and celebrate the lives of the dead. Jazz funeral processions have been a part of New Orleans traditions since the late 19th century. It's fitting then that the eternal departure of a loved one would be marked with celebration. A New Orleans jazz funeral is extremely ritualized, and there's a strict order of events that must be followed, or I don't know what they do to you if you don't follow them, but, it's not as free-flowing as you might think. Now, not every funeral held in New Orleans includes a jazz band procession, but this type of funeral is often part of the public celebration of life for departed public figures, high-profile individuals, and others who opt to include this type of procession in funeral ceremonies honoring their loved ones. Traditional jazz funerals start at a funeral home, the church, or other location where a wake or other form of memorial service is held. Like most services, this tends to be a somber occasion attended by family, friends, and close colleagues. The jazz funeral procession begins immediately following the service. So as the mourners exit the wake, they are greeted by a brass band playing a slow, solemn song typically associated with mourning. These are called dirges, or an old spiritual such as Nearer My God to Thee. The group of people following the brass band is called the second line. So you might hear people say, being part of the second line, or they might refer to the second line as the funeral itself. And that's just not true, and I want you all to know your terminology.
Yes.
Doggone it.
There'll be a quiz later, folks.
So,
go ahead.
Yes. So in the beginning part of the parade, if you will, there's the brass band and there's the family. And usually the casket that's being carried. So that's the first line. The second line is everybody after that. The second line are not solemn marchers. They are marching or moving the music, often creating their own show that complements the spectacle of the marching brass band. In its simplest form, the second line is a parade, a mass of celebrants and mourners that weave their way through the streets. For the city's Black culture bearers who make it their life's work to uplift and maintain the traditions of their ancestors, the funeral second line is much more. It is one of the sacred cultural rites that originated with the American slave trade and still continued. The term second line refers to the crowd of community members and mourners who follow the first line of the parade, the casket, family, and musicians. In New Orleans, that first line includes percussionists alongside a brass band with trumpets, tuba, and trombonists. Now, we included in our show notes a YouTube video from I think it was an HBO show called Treme, where they're doing this funeral and they're singing, "When I Die, You Better Second Line." And so when you hear that song, what they're talking about is it's sort of like, when I die, you better show up at my funeral.
Right.
So you better second line. You better come and dance and rejoice. So that's what that song is about, what it's saying. So the band leads the way for the hearse or a mule-drawn carriage carrying the coffin, starting a procession to the burial place. The mourners who attended the service follow, walking behind the vehicle that carries the deceased. So they get to walk behind the mule. Often, particularly in the case of a beloved musician or other community icon, people who don't attend the funeral service are waiting outside to join the procession. So the funeral service, that's for the family and the friends and that part. The walk, the second line, is for everyone else who wants to honor that person. Upon arrival at the destination, a brief burial service is held according to the religious traditions and wishes of the deceased individual or their family. Once the coffin is placed in the tomb, referred to as cutting the body loose, the tone changes from one of mourning to one of joy, and the mourners cut loose as well through music, marching, and dancing. The band begins playing joyful music at this point, symbolizing that the deceased person has gone to a better place, free from suffering and worldly concerns. On the return from the cemetery, the band would strike up a rousing "When the Saints Go Marching In," or ragtime songs such as "Dinty Ramble." The band continues playing, leading the attendees as they march and dance their way out of the cemetery, forming a parade. Passers-by, whether they knew the deceased or not, are welcome to join in behind the procession, forming that second line. So what would happen as they move through the streets, people would hear the music and they'd come out of their houses and they would join in that celebration and then go back to what they were doing. Yeah. The procession may go back to the point where it started or to an alternate location where a reception or gathering is going to be held. I was in New Orleans once, and I can't remember the name of the church that's right down there in the center square, but somebody had just gotten married, and they were doing a jazz band walk from the church to the reception.
Yeah.
And everybody around just joined in that.
Oh,
and so I
okay,
got to
yeah.
experience that. It wasn't a funeral, which it was a wedding, but I got to experience that second line
Right.
feeling, and it was just so much fun. So, back to funerals. Those who are cremated can still have a jazz funeral procession with the cremains transported via hearse or mule-drawn carriage. The French Quarter and Tremé are popular locations for such funeral marches. Sometimes jazz funerals begin from a location that played an significant role in the life of the deceased individuals, such as their business that they owned, or a theater where they performed, or a church or a funeral home, or a favorite bar. I read some stories about meeting at a favorite bar and drinking Bloody Marys, waiting for the band to show up and the body to show up, and they picked up their second line at the bar. You don't have to live in New Orleans to have a New Orleans jazz funeral. Many cities have musicians available to do that kind of thing. They typically will close off streets so that that can happen. So, Charlie, the past 2 years have shown how ill-equipped the U.S. is to deal with persistent grief, the kind that rises when hundreds of thousands of Americans die suddenly and within months of each other. So many Americans have had to bear their grief alone, and that isolation has led to the feeling that their pain and sadness is insurmountable. In New Orleans, grief does not exist without laughter, without dancing, without the movement of bodies, the crush of crowds, and the reminder that death, no matter how somber, is a part of life. Cindy Bechet, the renowned New Orleans jazzman, once said, "Music here is as much a part of death as it is a part of life." And I was reading an article written by Lady Delaney, and she wrote this: "The fact that grief can make such joyful noise is a profoundly beautiful thing. The sort of heartbreak that smiles into the sun through its tears, claps its hands, and shakes its booty to celebrate what is good in what we have lost. This is an act of reverent gratitude and life-affirming defiance in the wake of loss." Charlie, any thoughts or questions?
What a wonderful way to end that segment. That's beautiful. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, we have her whole article in the reference list if people would like to read it. But take a look at the videos; those are fun, and compare and contrast it to the funerals that you've gone to.
Right.
As you're thinking about what you want your funeral to be, I want to share with you all the ideas.
Yeah. And speaking of segments, welcome to the new segment, Everyone Dies, Wakes the Dead. We know that there are many wonderful songs that could be played at a funeral, including Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, Another One Bites the Dust, Ring of Fire, etc. So, we are inviting songwriters to send us a recording of 2 of their original songs that could be played at a funeral. One that is appropriate, and one that is likely not to be included in the third half of the Everyone Dies podcast. We will include as many artists as possible over the next year, maybe longer. Check out the lyrics for the songs in the show notes, and remember you can purchase music from the artist's webpage, which is also in the show notes. The artist of the week is Kathy Wieland, a singer-songwriter from Ann Arbor, Michigan. She plays guitar, banjo, and auto harp. Her songs are often humorous, and some have won festival contests. We asked Kathy to tell us why she wrote a song that could be played at a funeral, but was likely inappropriate to do so. She said she thought it would be fun to write a song about her favorite cocktail and give it a Michigan location, Alpena, Michigan. Let's take a listen.
In a bar in Alpena on a cold winter's night, I was sitting there nursing a brew. I was lonely and sad, 'cause I felt I'd been had by a man who lives up by the Sioux. Well, the bartender winked gave me a drink, said, here's something I think you should try. I took a big sip and with foam on my lip, raised up my glass and I cried, Alpina Colada, you're a drink that I'm fond of. You're a trip to the islands on a cold winter's day up in Mish, coconut and pineapple. You're much better than Snapple. You can leave out the rum so you won't be a bum, and they can't say you drink like a fish. Well, I had a few more, and my spirits they soared, and the jukebox was playing a song. Something smoky and slow with a rhythm that flowed to my hips that vibrated like gongs. I got up on the table, didn't know I was able. The music just gave me a push. Someone said, ooh la la, is that the hula or ska? I just shimmied and wiggled my tush. Alpina Colada, you're a drink that I'm fond of. You're a trip to the islands on a cold winter's day up in Mish, coconut and pineapple. You're much better than Snapple. You can leave out the rum so you won't be a bum, and they can't say you drink like a fish. And I'm told I made history. The cops came to take me away, threw me into the slammer. My head beat like a hammer when I woke to go home the next day. Made a stop at the market, it wasn't quite dark yet. Got mixes and fruit from the bin. Though I'm just off a bender, I threw ice in the blender. Gonna visit the islands again. Alpina Colada, you're a drink that I'm fond of. You're a trip to the islands on a cold winter's day up in Mish, coconut and pineapple. You're much better than Snapple. You can leave out the rum so you won't be a bum, and they can't say you drink like a fish. You can leave out the rum so you won't be a bum, and they can't say you drink like a fish.
So, Charlie, you think you would want your Alpina Colada to be played at your funeral?
You know what? I think what I would have to do is sample the wares first. You know, try an Alpina Colada. It's distant cousin, the Pina Colada, and different coladas.
Right.
Yeah, I would hope that anyone, at my funeral or wake, or, if I'm lost at sea, the people, whatever.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, you can be on the New York ferry, you
Yeah,
get lost to sea. Yeah. The Staten Island ferry, rather.
Yeah, he was lost at sea on the East River, somewhere between, Manhattan and Staten Island.
Let's go drink.
Yeah, he's gone. Let's go drink. Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's back. Well, let's go drink again. Yes, I would like to be remembered.
See, what we need is for Kathy to write you a song about martinis. And then that could be played at your funeral.
Oh, yes. Gin, please. Yes. I need to work on those lyrics.
Or meet up with Kathy and see what you can do. She was telling me that this bar up in
Yeah.
Alpena is been in this one family for 100
Oh.
years, and they're celebrating their 100th year this
Mhm.
year, and they are using Kathy's song as their
Oh.
celebration
Oh,
song
nice.
and having T-shirts
Yeah.
made. And I want to get a T-shirt because I think that'll be cool. I don't know what it looks like, but I still think it's going to be cool. So, Kathy, thank you for that song. I'm sure that there is somebody out there who's going to hear this and say, yep, that is on my playlist for my funeral, whether or not it should be.
But wait, there's more. The second song, there's always more at Everyone Dies. The second song for the category that could be played at a funeral, and it's even appropriate, is Old River. Take a listen.
Old river, wash me clean, float me gently down the stream. When I get to the ocean, roll me out to the sea. Old river, wild and deep, moving even as I sleep. Time passes like a dream as I travel your stream. I am on a rolling river, always moving to the sea. Drop of rain upon the water, going where it carries me. Old river, wash me clean, float me gently down the stream. When I get to the ocean, roll me out to the sea. I am pulled along the current, facing what's around the bend. Might be heaven if I've earned it when I reach my journey's end. Old river, wild and deep, moving even as I sleep. Time passes like a dream, ever changing the sea. You're eternal, I am fleeting. I won't pass this way again. Still, while this old heart is beating, guide me safely home, my friend. Old river, wash me clean, float me gently down the stream. When I get to the ocean, roll me out to the sea. Old river, wild and deep, moving even as I sleep. Time passes like a dream, till I'm one with the sea. Time passes like a dream, till I'm one with the sea.
Yeah, so you know what? Just it's nice that, with River, the idea of flowing and, just the way that Kathy has put the lyrics together. I mean, the images she creates with it is just really, it's really peaceful. It's, peaceful. I guess that's yeah.
Well, she said that she got like the music first, and then it seemed like these were the words that needed to go with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I really like is that ending where she says, "You're eternal, I am fleeting, I won't pass this way again." And it's, I like that she recognizes that there are some things, there's a lot of things that are here and will be here long after we're gone. That we're the temporary part of the equation.
And you know what? It's yes. And I agree 100%. And sometimes I get into big philosophical discussions with people, and, people will say, well, we're killing the earth. We're killing the earth. I go, well, no, we're killing the environment. It's going to affect humans. But, the earth has been around for, billions of years. It'll be around billions more after, we're done with our time on it. But it's just that. It just
our pillage.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, but it just, like a river, it just keeps flowing. Time just keeps flowing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, folks, I'm sorry. What?
Well, Kathy, I want to thank Kathy for these songs.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kathy. Yes.
I love them. And any of the listeners, please go to our website. You'll see in the show notes how you can submit your music. We'd love to have you included.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right, Charlie?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
So, beat a path to our virtual door and send your stuff in.
Yeah.
And with that, please stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies. And thank you for listening. Like sand through an hourglass, so are peas in a pod. This is Charlie Navarrete. Gene Simmons, bassist and lead singer of Kiss, tells of his mother's philosophy. Every day above ground is a good day.
Amen. And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week when we can cut loose together. Remember, when I die, you better second line. And every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.